What's your name?
My name is Blake Filippi. I'm from Block Island, Rhode Island.
Okay. Blake, I understand you're a constitutional lawyer, and you have some interesting ideas about nullifying parts of the NDAA that was recently signed into law by President Obama. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. So there are numerous portions of the NDAA which we feel are unconstitutional. And we've drafted legislation that anyone in the country can introduce to their local town officials and also to their state legislatures, which would direct, the first part, it would direct the state legislatures to tell all state officials not to cooperate with any military investigation of a United States citizen. And the second portion of it goes one step further and says that any detainment of a U.S. citizen by the military is an unconstitutional act. Not an unconstitutional act, excuse me, an illegal act under state and local law.
So some of the people that are watching this at home might remember from their high school, social science class or whatever, that federal law overrides state law. How would that work?
Okay, well, the first provision of our legislation is a directive to state and local officials not to cooperate with a military investigation of a U.S. citizen. The Supremacy Clause would not override that portion because federal officials cannot force state and local officials to act. The portion of our act that could be overridden by the Supremacy Clause, and that's only if the NDAA is constitutional, is the provision making it illegal for the military to detain someone within the jurisdiction of the state or the local municipality.
What do you have any thoughts as a constitutional lawyer that Barack Obama, who was a constitutional scholar at the University of Chicago, would sign legislation like that into law?
I think he needs to brush up on his constitutional studies.
And so we're at this Ron Paul event here tonight. What is it that you support about Ron Paul? I would imagine something to do with his emphasis on the Constitution.
Well, I mean, the Constitution's a document that binds all of us together. And it's almost been a death by 1,000 razor cuts what they've done to our liberties and the provisions of the Constitution. You know, decision by decision, they've undermined it to the point where the Constitution is seen as almost as a nullity. They pass all these regulations and laws under the Commerce Clause that were never intended to be passed by our founders. You know, they never intended that the federal government would regulate local education. You know, and the list goes on and on. So I think that Ron Paul understands the Constitution and understands what the original intent was. And, you know, everyone's looking for answers how to fix this country. And it's not in some far-off concept. The answers to fix this country are located in the Constitution, and we need to return to our American traditions.
Just a kind of a separate question. The healthcare legislation that was passed and signed into law by Obamacare, that's making its way up to the, I think it's on the docket for the Supreme Court right now. How do you think that the Supreme Court's going to rule on that? just speculating. We might not even know.
Well, if I were on the Supreme Court, I would say the Commerce Clause does not allow the federal government to force someone to buy health care. You know, the argument for the constitutionality of the Health Care Act, the forced purchase of health insurance, is that by not purchasing health insurance, you indirectly affect interstate commerce, and therefore the government has the ability to regulate you, to force you to purchase health insurance. If I were on the Supreme Court, I'd say that's crazy. But the Supreme Court has come out with numerous crazy decisions in the past, and you know, there's one swing vote that's going to decide it.
Do you have a timeline for when this model legislation might be released?
It's drafted. Rhode Island, RILiberty.com is the website. It's going to be up by Friday with a link to the website, with a link to the draft legislation. Anyone in the country can download it and submit it to their local governments and their state governments.